This is a video on how to use the Deskmat asset in KRK2. First, drag the Deskmat out of the asset browser and move it to position. Then press Restore Collections to make it editable. Now you have access to the dimensions, corner fillet, thickness, etc. Currently it's set to 900 by 400, but you can have a maximum of 1 meter by 1 meter. You'll notice that it stops here at 600, but you can manually type in 1000. The corner fillet stops at 200 millimeters, which is too large already, but if you wish to make a circle, you can set it to 500. There we go, circular Deskmat. In here we have settings for whether to have the edging on or the edge print. You can choose a color. If you don't have edge print, then you can choose a color. To reset this back to 900 by 400, we can just hit backspace over the values. All right. The materials for the Deskmat may be a little confusing. The 3 required materials are populated in slots on the object, but this is not how they're assigned. The materials are assigned through the modifier tab because this is a geometry nodes network, and the material is assigned inside geometry nodes. So you have access to those here. The reason they're in slots on the object is for convenience and to allow them to be editable. Now you can duplicate this and make an extra copy of your material should you decide to do multiple Deskmats in a scene. For now, we're just going to edit the existing one. So for Deskmat Mat, click on the X and open, and we can find an image I made for our background here. The image is looking a little stretched, and that's because of the mapping. The right dimensions are not in there. The original dimensions are set up for a 1 meter by 1 meter square. In this case, we have an image that's 900 by 400 millimeters exactly. So let's set it up for that. For the location, you want to set that to half of what your dimensions are. The reason for that is you are offsetting the origin of the coordinates. Okay, so for X, we're doing half of 900, which is 450. And for Y, we're doing 200. And for scale, you need to set that to the actual dimension in meters. So this will be 0.9 meters, and this will be 0.4 meters. Now we have our image on there. If you look closely, you'll see that we still have the Thoughts Deskmat material on the edging and the stitching. So let's take care of that next. Go over to slot 2, edging, and load in our image. So we can just, it's already in Blender, so we just need to find it. And our mapping is not correct, so let's set that up. 450 by 200. 0.9 by 0.4, and that's matched up perfectly. Now the stitching here. Slot 3. Load in our image. We can do that right here. And then set the dimensions. 450 by 200. And 0.9 by 0.4. One thing to note here is the stitching is a bunch of instances, and they behave like separate objects. So if no value is in this object field here, it will have the wrong coordinate. In fact, it has the wrong coordinate in it now. if I move the Deskmat, GY, like that, the material for the texture for the stitching has moved. And that's because it's actually referencing the Deskmat that's still in the asset browser here. What we need to do is hit X on here to clear that out, and then sample this Deskmat to make that correct. So when you move it, it behaves. There we go. Now we have our own image in the Deskmat. We can set a larger corner fillet, like 30 mil. There we go. One thing I would like to demonstrate afterwards is a custom shape. So if you go back into the modifiers, you'll notice that there's an option now for a custom shape and a curve object. So I'll go ahead and import a curve object, and we'll make this a custom shape. So File, Import, SVG, not the other SVG as grease pencil. We need SVG. So here's our Deskmat SVG. Now we have to do a couple things to prepare this. One would be to set the origin, because the origin is at 0, which is okay, but if we want it to match this perfectly, it would be easier to set it up now. So with your curve selected, shift click on the Deskmat, and then bring up press F3 to bring up the search and type in align. Now we can align objects on the X and the Y. So shift click the Y to make two of them active. So now this is lined up exactly to the existing Deskmat. One more thing we'd like to do here is, with this selected, I'll rename it. I'll call it Deskmat. With this selected, the Deskmat, we like to set the origin to the 3D cursor, which the 3D cursor should still be at world 0. If it isn't, then look in here. You can press backspace over this field and reset it to 0. Okay, origin, set origin to 3D cursor. So now this curve here has its origin at world 0 and the center of the object. The next thing we should do is go into the curve options, make sure it's set to 2D and fill mode none. So if you saw that, it took the fill out of it. Now we don't actually need to see this, so I'll just turn it off. We can select our Deskmat, go into modifiers, and choose our Deskmat curve. Now all that's left is to turn on custom shape. So not much happened on this side, but if we look in the other side, we have a curve. Beautiful. Okay. Well, that's it for the Deskmat. Let's go ahead and put the board on here and see what it looks like. Line that up, and also let's throw a mouse right on that, right on the dot, like that. I want to see a bit of it. There we go. Lovely. Okay, open this up, throw some cherry keycaps on there, get the caps mat, copy materials, setup, and paste. There we go. Get a bit of GPU compute and turn on the render view. There we go. The lighting is still dim. Let's just change out that default kit lighting over to something like Studio One. There we go.